Hey, welcome to Justice Serve TV. Michael Bryant here. I feel like we've just. Oh wait, that was for the other. We did our members live today for the first time with the book club, and when you're in the JSTV book club lounge, things are kind of cash. Anyway, today, what the hell is happening in Atlantic City, New Jersey, with Aiden Carney case? We'll talk about that. Fitzsimmons, Kelsey Fitzsimmons case. We got some good news. We got some bad news. Porn star decapitation. That's where this case begins. And David, the rapper, and this poor girl Celeste found in his car. What is happening there? All of that and Bob Bianchi coming up.
Justice, where are you? Michael and Linda are here.
Love you, Linda.
The world is justice. Will we ever find justice?
The courthouse the other day in the hallway, you're singing
Will
"Oh
we
Happy
know
Day."
justice when we see it? To be and down will I lead the way, hoping justice will win the day. Listener clues, finding justice where we can. Join us now, we're on the run. Justice is waiting, we'll see it done.
And welcome, folks, again. If you were here for the book club earlier today, thank you so much. Good to have you along. We will continue to look at that book. You might go to prison if you're innocent. Justin Brooks. We'll get into another portion of it next Wednesday at 2 o'clock. I'm locking that in. We moved this one around a couple times. I'm locking it in. I am so glad to have during this guest host week one of my favorites, a buddy from Law and Crime. You know him, you love him. Some call him the Rizzler. It is Bob Bianchi. How you doing, buddy?
Oh man, between the music and your guys' intro, I'm always laughing before we start. I was tweeting or doing whatever it is you do, saying on social media, like it's the only place where you could talk about murder and be laughing at the same
I know.
time.
As I say, we have as much fun as you could possibly have talking about death and destruction. So
Thanks for having me.
Of course. What have you been up to? You're still doing the EMT thing, right? So
Yeah.
saving lives and
Got my shift tomorrow. We had a great save on a CPR call. Yours truly was doing compressions, and then when we had the automatic Lucas machine, as they call it, I did ventilations, and I've never seen anything like it. I got to be honest with you. It talks about the preciousness of life, and that's why I love being a homicide prosecutor and the law and doing EMT work. Is I literally felt as I was doing a maneuver under the man's throat, vibrations, and I think he's moaning. And by the time we got to the hospital, after shocking him twice with the automatic defibrillator, he was literally speaking and wanting to RMA out of the hospital. He was in such good shape. So, I've always said this. I don't want to get too philosophical. I know it's not where you wanted to go when we started, but I believe my EMT work, thanks for asking, and my homicide work, when I gave my TED Talk, it was on what we call deathbed confessions. And it's really the EMT work and the homicide work have taught me to really appreciate every day and every minute that's given to you and live it to the fullest. And I know people say that as a punchline, but when you do what it is that we do here, like on TV or analyzing cases, or you do what I do, like as an EMT, it becomes more meaningful to you. So thanks for asking. I love doing it.
Yep, I could tell, and you are living life to the fullest. You were out on your Harley over the weekend doing that, and I think that was Saturday, so that was the good weather day. It got a little weird on Sunday. Did you go somewhere special, or just kind of cruising the area there?
I cruised the area. I got a ambient all black Harley. I love it, and I got my tools of the trade in the back just in case. That's like my dream. Like I come onto a scene and somebody's like, hopefully it won't be me. But yeah, it's great. Thanks for it's one of my joys. I don't talk about it a lot. But I do love riding motorcycles, dirt bikes, and all sorts of things on two wheels with motors.
I didn't look closely. Is that a panhead, shovelhead? What a fat boy? What is that exactly?
So, wow, good knowledge of the repertoire. So the Sportster Harley is now converted into the Nightster. So I was a Honda guy. So I know that I'm creating sacrilege here.
Yeah. Well, that's that's a pretend motorcycle. Is the Honda?
Look, it is they're beautiful bike. All of them, Indians, Hondas, I love them. But this one's a zippy, fast Rev Max engine. A lot of Harley people don't like it because it's not air cooled; it's water cooled, liquid cooled, as they say. But it is like super, super twitty and flirty, and you got to have a lot of input. But it's a bike meant to be just cruising around, very light, but fast. It's a beast.
Yeah, it's fun. I never graduated to the Harley. I had a Suzuki, I had a Kawasaki, I had a Honda. I was never grown up enough for the Harley. So maybe someday.
Come on in, man. We'll go riding together.
Man, I would love that. It would be so fun. Okay, so on other slightly more serious things than motorcycle riding, I know you've been indoctrinated now into the Aidan Carney Turtle Boy universe, which is nasty and ugly and frightening. And one of the reasons, as those who have been watching know, that Linda Kenney Baden is on assignment, as she's been hired by Aidan Carney for this super secret thing that was supposed to happen today in Atlantic City, New Jersey. All we can say is basically that what's out there is that there was a temporary restraining order that today was going to be reviewed to determine whether it should become a permanent restraining order. Don't know the other individual who is being protected by restraining Aidan Carney, but from what we understand, it was an overwhelming restraint. Some might call it a prior restraint. And as a journalist, that obviously is important to Aidan Carney. So this morning, with very little notice, and I'm getting this live from Aidan Carney as he's reporting, he learns it. The court says, we're kind of busy today. Can't squeeze you in. This was set for 1 o'clock this afternoon. And so 4 or 5 hours before that, they pull the plug. So, as a New Jersey guy, former prosecutor, that sounds odd to me. What's your take on that before we move into some of the other parts of this story?
All right. Well, as you know, we were saying just before we went on, I've heard this name of this guy from, especially through you guys, and I it's one of those things where you keep hearing it here. I knew nothing about this guy. I know nothing about him. I don't know. Other than the basics that you told me, in that he's got this secretive, if you will, quote unquote, proceeding. New Jersey has been on the cutting edge, as it is many times, with the change of law that deals with, and I don't know if we're talking about this, but any kind of cyber harassment. It used to be in Jersey that the only way that you could get an order of protection from a court is if you were in a domestic violence relationship. And as prosecutors, we felt, and even as defense lawyers, and we represent, believe it or not, a lot of victims come to us because of our prosecutorial background to ask them for assistance in the criminal justice system. And it does become frustrating if there is an individual who is seriously harassing, a lot of times via the internet, individuals, and you have to say to them, we can't do anything for you legally because you did not have the criteria under the domestic violence law of having a previous relationship or having lived in the same household. Those are the jurisdictional requirements for a domestic violence restraining order. So you're out of luck. So the legislature responded to that, and the law's slow, but Jersey's quicker than most with cutting-edge legislation. And I presume this is what we're talking about here. I don't know for sure that if you are cyber harassing an individual, there are steps people can take in order to go before court, very much like a restraining order in a domestic violence context. And if you prove that, in fact, you are covered under that law, then the judge can order an order of protection like they could in a domestic violence situation. So I'm not sure if that's what we're dealing with here.
Yeah, I have no idea. It's all sealed. Yeah. Does that tell you anything if it's all sealed?
That's really odd to me. Sealing requires, I don't know. I honestly don't want to speak out loud. I don't want to say it's counter because I don't know this area of law very well. People in my firm do it. And they would know it better. So I'm not sure if that's a function, but typically speaking, things aren't quote unquote sealed by the court unless there's a reason. But that could be by operation of law. I just don't know, Michael.
Yeah. Okay. It seemed a little odd not to be on the docket or noted anywhere. And most of the information, little bits of it, are coming right through Aidan himself. So in his live broadcasts. So we don't know what the hell's going on. I've not talked to anybody. I don't expect to see anything show up online. So I imagine the next word we'll hear will be from Aidan Carney himself to figure out. I mean, really, if you have a temporary restraining order and you postpone at least once the hearing, it kind of becomes more than temporary. It seems the nature of the order should be addressed as sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I wouldn't definitely not take anything away from that, because the courts are, unfortunately, in New Jersey, our judges are way overtaxed with cases. The political establishment, as is typical, and both sides are victim or perpetrators of this, can never find a way to fully staff our judiciary. And we complain about this. There are not enough judges to handle criminal cases, which take priority in the entire criminal justice system, in the entire justice system. Civil cases can be 5, 6, 7 years. Matrimonial cases, domestic violence cases, and they have to triage. And they're robbing Peter to pay Paul. So the fact that these judges are working overtime, double time, triple time, they're overwhelmed. So the fact that and by the way, sometimes you're just not ready to proceed. Sometimes the case needs discovery. Somebody's not ready. So having an adjournment, it may seem like it's not temporary, but it's nothing about that shocks my conscience.
I'm throwing this out there and I have no idea. I'm just thinking through my mind. Okay, what are the possibilities? Correct. Could be outright scheduling disaster and they just, something had to go. Possible. I think because, there's some new attorneys in the mix. You might remember Darren Gelber. He was on Long Crime with us many times.
Sure.
He's a New Jersey attorney. Well, he and Linda are now representing Aidan Carney in this matter. They would have filed their appearance in the form of either a notice of appearance or some sort of pleading to address the hearing that was going to happen today, whatever in the hell it was. That might have suggested to the court they need to kind of think it over, that they weren't able to ramrod this thing through. Now we've got a couple of well-known, well-experienced attorneys that are now representing Aidan Carney. So maybe we don't want to just rush into this hearing.
Again, I think the courts are prepared to do what the courts are ready to do. They're not going to, respectfully, despite the heft and wonderment of both Linda and Darren, good people. I know them, obviously, both. They're not intimidated by that. I would not be surprised, though, if it were me and I were getting involved in the case. I would want the time to be able to, this is not a joke. I mean, these are serious consequences that flow from these orders of protection. And what I have, at least in my experience, and I train lawyers through the Bar Association all the time, is that too many lawyers are shooting from the hip and they're not prepared and they don't know all the facts and circumstances. Sometimes they don't even know the law completely. And so I don't want to be rushed. I'd say virtually every restraining order hearing we have in my office, and we have a lot of them, we are asking for adjournments on virtually every one of them in order to be properly prepared.
All right. Well, we shall see. The spitballing, I'm sure, will continue until we get the real truth. But at this point, I'm so cynical these days about a lot of the courts that we've dealt with, primarily in Massachusetts, but now it seems to be trickling south. Whenever Aidan Carney's involved, the spinoff of the Karen Reed case and all of the lunacy that's involved in that, I don't know. I have a hard time giving the court the benefit of the doubt.
Michael, I want to just say something here. I've had my critiques of the judiciary for 30 plus years. In fact, I'm a prolific, commentator against some of the things they do. But one of them is not being influenced by media and the posture of a case. Our judges are not elected in New Jersey. They're appointed by the governor, and after 7 years, they have full tenure, which gives them a lot more discretion to be free and fair. And in my opinion, we debate this, and our prosecutors, like myself, appointed by the governor. We're not elected. So we don't have a constituency we have to appease, whatever. So in all the years, I've had judges I have not liked. I've had judges who I think are harsh and unreasonable and maybe not even that skilled. But doing things duplicitously, I have never found. I think I could say the word never.
Okay. I could, again, I'm not in your shoes. Don't have to practice there. But Massachusetts is very similar in that they appoint them. And to me, that also lends itself to potential problems in bowing to the powers that put you in your seat.
Well, that's,
because you aren't beholden to the electorate. You're beholden to whoever put you there. So either way it could go. We've just seen so much in Massachusetts. I admit I'm jaded. I admit it. So let's keep our fingers crossed about Atlantic
That's
City.
why you got to go ride a Harley.
will free my mind. Okay. Okay. So let's move on now to a case which is also based in Massachusetts. This one in the court system there as well. I want to get your take on this. This is Kelsey Fitzsimmons case. This is a woman that had a baby, had some postpartum issues, was and currently is, but on administrative leave, an officer with North Andover Police in Massachusetts. As a result of her postpartum issues, the baby daddy had concerns that she might hurt herself or the baby or him. Goes in ex parte, of course, and swears out an affidavit. And next thing you know, 3 cops are on her doorstep wanting the baby back and taking her weapons. She had just been cleared to go back to work literally 4 days later. This happened June 30th. So they show up on her doorstep. They make the moves to remove the baby. She goes to the bedroom to get clothing and things, which had to be very stressful in and of itself. Grabs a gun at some point. Her version is that it was merely threatening to hurt herself. The officer interprets that as being a threat to him, points the gun at him, says the officer, Officer Noonan. He shoots, hits her in the chest. She goes down, somehow survives, 53 days in the hospital, 2 surgeries, comes out. She's charged with assault with a deadly weapon. That was they went to the grand jury with actually murder as a charge. The grand jury didn't buy that. They came out with the one charge of assault with a deadly weapon. So as a condition of her release, the Judge McCarthy, Naaman, asks her to, or demands that she use a Scram. Are you familiar with Scram, the alcohol monitoring breathalyzer? The thing you breathe into. It's not the bracelet or the cuff. It's the one you breathe into. Mm-hmm. So Kelsey Fitzsimmons complies for a couple of days and then realizes, because she has broken ribs, she had a collapsed lung. She got a lot of chest injuries, that taking a deep breath and exhaling for an extended period of time, as you need to for a breathalyzer, cause pain, not just at the time, but for a period of time afterwards. So she and her attorney, Tim Bradle, they go into court asking to change that condition, to give us an alternative of some sort. Judge McCarthy, Naaman, decides that apparently that's the only way she can comply with her release conditions. It's too painful. We're not going to put her through that kind of pain. Therefore, we're locking her back up. And for 2 months now, she's been back in jail while all of the fight to get her out has continued at reconsideration at the trial court level, denied. And you'll find this interesting. I had not seen it before, but in Massachusetts, when you go to appeal to the SJC there, the Supreme Judicial Court, you can have a single justice review as opposed to the whole panel. Okay. So they did that, and they lost. That was Justice Dewar. She was the one that decided that, no, the trial court was correct. Then you get to appeal to the full panel. And unlike SCOTUS, where it's far less likely you're getting in, 5,000 requests each year to the Supreme Court, and only 100 are actually heard. At the SJC full panel request, the default is almost, we'll hear the case. They agreed to hear the case. And it has now been scheduled. The briefing has come out. The petitioner filed Monday. It will be the 20th when the respondent, Commonwealth, needs to file. And then just today, and I'll put this up for the folks so they can see it on the docket here, at the very bottom, let me see if I can make that a little bit easier to read. Let's see. Come on, a little bit. I'll just read it to you. Notice, this is from today, number 14 on the docket. This matter shall be submitted for the court's consideration on the papers filed by the parties on December 3, and then it says it's cut off there, but it's 2025. The reason that's an issue, Bob, and the reason I want to get your take on this is a request for hearing, in-person hearing was made, as well as a request for oral argument. That, from my reading, makes it sound like that ain't going to happen. What's your reading on that? Would you agree with that?
I would. As to what they're going to have an actual hearing on it.
Yeah, oral hearing and in-person hearing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. Again, I would just imagine that Massachusetts would be very similar to Jersey, and you're not getting a lot of hearings on things of this nature in preliminary stages. Again, courts completely overwhelmed. There's extraordinary deference given to the trial court at this juncture. of the proceedings. And while we can say people are presumed innocent, it doesn't feel that way sometimes.
Yeah, and this is, because we're not even getting to the merits of the case. This is all about the probation, conditions of release, how the judge handled it. And critical to this is it was recorded but not videotaped, so you can hear it, and it's outrageous what this judge doesn't do. Interrupts the attorneys who are trying to craft a remedy, interrupts, overrules effectively the probation officer's argument and help, saying she never violated. This is not a question of violating her conditions. We're not here on a violation. We're being proactive, saying, can we do something in the alternative? So the request to do urine testing, others, they just get muddled in this very brisk, gruff. I've never seen a judge act like it. She literally stormed off the bench in the middle of counsel's argument to get her to reconsider, because she immediately revoked bail. And Kelsey Fitzsimmons, you can hear her, crying in the end of this audio tape, because they haul her off right then. Nothing anybody expected. Nobody can figure out the motivation of this judge to do it, because you would think their goal would be to, craft whatever is the best remedy. But this is also a judge, and tell me if you've ever heard this before. She needed another surgery. Kelsey Fitzsimmons, she got 2 surgeries in the 53 days. She needed another one, less life-saving, but critical. And the judge wouldn't let them remove the ankle monitor to do the surgery.
Yeah. No, I just got done defending the judiciary.
I know, that's okay. That's all right, because I will not.
No, but I did say 30 years of critiquing them. And one of the biggest critiques that I do have is kind of sounding like, and I'm not looking at all the documents, I'm not listening to I'm taking your analysis of it, which I trust, knowing you for all these years, and your accuracy and acuity towards facts and not hyperbole when you're delivering facts, is the biggest problem that I have with the judiciary, and that's their temperamental unfitness, at least by how I see it. I don't care as a litigant why you're the way you are on the bench, whether you're having people have a bad day, and people, you don't know what they're going through until you walk a mile on somebody's moccasins. I get all that. I'm a mindset coach. I lecture on mindset. But the point is, when you put those robes on and you go on that bench, you're dealing with human beings' lives, and you got to put that stuff aside. And one of the biggest problems I have with the judges is the temperamental, the cutting lawyers off, the disrespect, the not listening. There's nothing worse as a lawyer than when you think that you're passionate about an argument and there's a court cutting you off at the knees, being disrespectful to you, exerting unnecessary pressure. And then on the other hand, you have all these bar committees that are out there talking about attorney wellness. And I've always said 90% of the attorney wellness issues, with all due respect to my judicial colleagues, many of whom I love and whatever, from the bench, they're just not doing justice, right? And so when you're acting that way, maybe your decision is correct legally, but it doesn't appear that way to the public and to the people who are being affected by it because of your temperament. And I that sounds like what you're dealing with here. Now, 90% of the judges are temperamentally very fit. But when you have the 1% or 2, there are judges I go before and I just like, what judge is it? And you just shake your head because you just know that no matter what you do, no matter what you say, you're going to be in for a humiliating, painful, disrespectful, unjudicial, or lack of judicial perspective experience. And what bothers me in all these years is that all the other judges that are empowered to change this, all the other parts of the system that are in place that can change this, nary do they ever act until something catastrophic happens. We have an epic judge in Jersey that was like this. And it was after she used to send lawyers home crying in tears. Abusive. Everyone knew it, but nobody did anything about it. So I don't know, Michael, other than to say it's unfortunate, even irrespective of the ruling, if it appears as if they're not letting lawyers finish their sentence, they're disrespectful, then it's literally eating the judicial system's integrity, because people cannot feel, I'm sorry for being choppy with this, can't feel that it's being done for the right reasons as opposed to a personality issue.
Yeah, and I try to be. I'm not into judge bashing. I call it like I see it. I think I'm being very objective when I listen to that and I see the result of what this judge did, and I just keep asking why. What,
Oh,
what was the motivation? To, like, the goal was to get her back in jail. Why?
yeah. Well, there's another thing too, and this is my problem with prosecutors, and this I could talk to all day long, because I was one. Is just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I find myself like pining for the days of old where my 93-year-old dad, who's still a lawyer, and I grew up with icons in the field, icons of trial lawyers. These guys didn't play. They were charismatic, they were smart, they were street smart, they were great in a courtroom. They were like, I would sit there and watch in amazement. Yet they had strong compassion, sense of justice, sense of balance. They didn't see things in black and white, that you're on the good side or the bad side. They were able to take concept issues and work in the gray. And I found that when I was the prosecutor, that I was constantly saying to my younger prosecutors that your job is not to hit flies with sledgehammers. That's a phrase I would use all of the time. Just because you have a sledgehammer doesn't mean you need to hit that fly with it. Okay, we have lots of tools. So are you really achieving a just result with a person who's got, look, as a prosecutor, I want to make sure she's not going to commit any kind of other crime, or she's not a danger to herself or to the community. But are there ways of achieving that? Can you take an ankle bracelet off for somebody who's got to go for a medical procedure? Is it really that necessary that you can't use your common sense? Is this person going to really run away? Is it documented? Are there alternatives? Take the time. Here's my advice to you judges and you prosecutors out there. Take the time to understand the collateral consequences, even of the people that you're prosecuting and what they're going through, that they're human beings as well, and do what you can to judge their conduct and not them as people. And then you'll have a different prism with which you can make decisions to accommodate as best as you can. Because as a prosecutor, my last point, sorry, I'm on my soapbox. My last point as a prosecutor is, trust me, for you that are out there that are listening, when you are on your deathbed, and someday you will be more proud of those people's lives that you gave breaks to, those people that you rehabilitated, those people whose lives you made better, as much as and as equally satisfying as those that committed horrific acts that you put away for as long as humanly possible. So I feel that there's probably prosecutors could do a lot here, Michael, to eradicate this issue that this temperamental judge does not have to even get involved.
Sorry, you'll find this interesting then on the prosecutor front. Prosecutor Gubitosi. Excuse me, I just sneezed there. Gubitosi, he didn't say much during this hearing. You have the probation officer, Mr. January, who is laying out and clearly trying to help Kelsey Fitzsimmons, clearly trying to reinforce that she didn't do anything wrong. She had trouble taking the test, but she continued until she succeeded. But why are we putting her through that? The judge he said something like, we don't determine that to be non-compliant. The judge says, well, you might not, but that's not your decision. That's my decision. I mean, just really an asshole. And so the prosecutor was just very mousy about it when she was asking him, are you on board with me? He was not really. He was just non-committal in terms of help. Certainly he wasn't going to go out of his way to help the defense, but he sure didn't side with the judge either. And until they got to the written papers with the various appeals, and then all of a sudden it was, they were clutching their pearls about how horrible it was that this defendant even thought about being out of jail. Didn't happen. So one more thought about the judge. I just, when I watch it or listen to it, and I've listened to it many times, and I run the possible scenarios through my brain, it just makes you wonder, why would she be so motivated to do that when I know you talked, about the judicial, the demeanor and what they bring to the mix, but it's almost like I'd rather have a judge that is checked out than one that seems to be malicious.
Yeah.
And I just don't know what motivates that person.
Yeah, listen, I mean, here's a big FYI, right? Get ready for the curtain to be pulled down. This is a great moment. Drum roll, please. Just because they get appointed to be a judge and they put black robes on doesn't make them any better than anyone else. And, we consent as lawyers in the judiciary to have somebody call balls and strikes, and that's the judge. And even if we don't agree with them, but that does not give them the right to be temperamentally unfit, nasty, and AHs, okay, on the bench. And you have them. You have people who are enjoy the abuse of power because they can, and they can demean people. Now, they're small people. These are weak people, but fire needs to be fought with fire. And when I was prosecutor, if one of my assistant prosecutors came to me, and the judge can disagree and say, no, that's my call, but you talk to my prosecutor disrespectfully, you were going to get a visit from the county prosecutor to talk about, you will treat my lawyers with respect. I'm not asking that you do everything that they say by any stretch of the imagination, but you will not treat them disrespectfully, or I will take action. And so I would prevail upon that assistant district attorney, or whatever they call them out there, their boss, as well as, everyone's afraid to file judicial conduct complaints. Okay, so maybe the legal ruling was correct, but there is a judicial review board that's out there. And I would hope that the defense and the prosecution, I understand it's a little Pollyannic, would get together and say, this needs to be addressed. But here's the thing, last point, Michael, to the Massachusetts, you said, okay, you know what? Listen, judges out there in Massachusetts, whoever's watching this great show, all right, you know who this judge is. You don't have to wait for a complaint to be filed by litigants, because litigants are afraid if they file a complaint against a judge that they're going to have a negative reaction brought against them. It's a very legitimate concern. But just like internal affairs with police departments, which I used to run, you don't have to wait for somebody to file a complaint for you to investigate if you become aware of police misconduct, nor should you for judicial conduct. Where are the rest of the judges? Cowards. Just because you're not doing it doesn't mean that you shouldn't bring it forward and help people who are being abused by these very few minority of judges that are temperamentally unfit.
Yeah, and this is Essex County, and I will say that I was up for the family and probate court right around the corner from where this happened for a hearing related to Kelsey Fitzsimmons. Her baby daddy just wants to take the equity from a home that he doesn't own because he has the baby now, and he says, I need that for child support, blah, blah, blah. That judge, Judge Barry Black, great demeanor, took the time, came up with what I think is the right decision. So I'm not painting with a broad brush here. I'm laser focused on those that are clearly in the wrong job. And so one other thing to point out, and I've said this before, I appreciate when attorneys feel like they kind of have to gild the lily a little bit and be nicer because I might have to appear in front of Judge X, Y, or Z again. Screw that. I don't care. Who are you working for? Who deserves your full undivided attention and loyalty? I'm not kissing the ass of a judge just because someday I might appear in a bigger case in front of that judge. You got to call them out if it's deserved. And in this case, I think it's deserved. And Tim Bradel, in both of his petitions at the single justice level and the full panel, has asked for the judge to be replaced at the trial court level. So he's hung it out there. If he appears in front of her again, it could be even uglier. But he has asked for her to be replaced. So.
Hey, you're talking to a guy who literally got remanded to a jury box where a judge was literally got off the bench across counsel table, pointed at me and was like, one more word out of you and you're getting locked up. And I said, you mean starting now, Judge? That's it.
That's the word.
That's the word. And I sat in, it's funny you say, it was in a county, Essex County, New Jersey, where Newark is. And I sat in the jury box for 5 hours. And
you were in timeout, Bob. They put you in timeout.
Dude, I thought they were going to put me in the county jail as a prosecutor. I was like just out of law school. My heart was palpitating. I was like, it was a horrible experience. But there was another example of a judge where people would say to me, oh, don't, he's crazy. Don't, whatever. And I'm like, all I'm doing is making a legal argument. What's the problem? And I learned. Boy, I'll tell you what, but I'm proud all these years later that I stood up to him.
Yep, exactly. Our job is not to kiss the judge's ass. I'm sorry. It's just not. That's not your client. So, okay, that's Fitzsimmons. We will obviously keep on top of that. The prosecution's brief is supposed to be filed by the 20th. I had hopes that maybe things worked out. They asked for an expeditious treatment of this, that it might be done and she'd get out for Thanksgiving. Obviously, I'm getting greedy. We just want her out. But now that they're not going to make a decision until December 3rd, then obviously she misses Thanksgiving with the family. And we have said at Just to Serve TV, we are going to pay for whatever the alternate testing is deemed appropriate, whether it's urine testing, blood testing, monitor by ankle monitor, although I've been told that Essex County is a little shaky on that. And there are some technical issues making it less accurate than the one you breathe into, which we don't want her to do. But whatever they end up with as an alternative, we're going to cover it so she didn't have to deal with it. And so the latest news, good that they're going to make a decision, bad that there's no oral, and bad that it's going to be after Thanksgiving. So,
hey, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Since we have a loose format here.
Yes, we do. We're very loose.
So I'm looking at Dawn 978's very prescient and I think very brilliant commentary about how glad she is. Did I miss it here? Let me see.
Sometimes they go flying by.
Oh boy, it was just here. This has been fascinating. I'm so glad Bob was on tonight. Look, who am I to disagree with with Dawn 978? Which brings up, like, have you even noticed my rocker on the bottom here? Is that showing to your? You
mean with the Rizz built in? Yeah, I noticed that right away.
I don't do that for everybody. I do that.
Thank you. For you guys. You have your own little emoji thing. What do you call that? Is that an emoji? I don't know. Missy, there it is. Unspoken Rizz. Do you see that? It's up in the top corner above your head. Do you see that? Yeah, that's been crafted for you. We spent a lot of money on that. Sent that out.
Nothing but the best. Nothing but the best.
Nothing but the best. Yeah, when I see that on your name, it always reminds me of like when you have a retired so-and-so, they always put retired R-E-T in there.
Yeah. But thanks, Dawn. Thanks, Dawn. You brilliant person.
Yep, Dawn always knows what the hell's
going on.
Yeah,
and why is it Dawn wants to know? Her second question, she's just afraid to type it there. How come it's been so long since you guys have asked me to be on the show?
Has it been that long? I just feel like days were just flying by.
I don't know, Missy. It's been a long time since Missy reached out. I know she's got mad respect for the Rizzler. I don't know,
and she's in charge of the operation, so I don't know. We'll have to have a meeting about that. Okay, so here's a case I know you've commented on Court TV, and for those folks who haven't checked him out, he's on Court TV all the time. I'm surprised they didn't give you a shot there on the desk. Now, I know you didn't want to move to Atlanta.
Yeah, he has a little like selling my house problem.
Yeah, I've been through that before. I understand. Yeah, Atlanta, I'm in up to that point. Sorry, I'm out. So this is the porn star accused of killing her baby daddy. They have two daughters together. Her name is Devin Michaels. And by the way, decapitating this guy in the process. What I think is most interesting, well, there's a lot of things, but one of the things that's very interesting, I want to play some of this for the folks who can kind of get a sense of this defendant, and maybe more importantly, the process. And I want to get your take on this. As you recall, Bob, she had a plea deal, right? I mean, she had a plea deal. And then they go to court to, effectively cement the plea deal. Let me make sure I've got the right one up here. My tech skills, as most know, gets a little sketchy at times. Okay, let me find the right one here. And so at that hearing, it just starts to unravel. And this is a case that's currently being tried right now. It's in Las Vegas. They were in Henderson, which for those folks who aren't familiar is just outside of town, very close to Las Vegas proper. So this is Devin Michaels. She shows up. Jonathan Willett is the victim in the case, 46-year-old man. She's 47. And as an interesting wrinkle, she's now married to his son, her stepson.
Oh my gosh.
But don't, let's not get into that part just yet. Yeah. Let me see if I can find it here. I apologize. This is my usual dillying and dallying. Okay. And so she goes to this hearing and she's ready to, in theory, accept the plea deal. And then it starts just to get weird. So let me bring this on here. I'm getting seasick. Okay.
And I understand.
You can hear that, Bob?
Yeah.
I can actually prove my innocence. I actually can. And I'm not going to stop fighting to prove my innocence. I have more than enough. And Jonathan deserves to have the actual person who's guilty behind bars. I was helping Jonathan. I can show that I was trying to help him. And this, I know, is hurting the family, and I can see it in your faces, and I know your hearts are angry, and they should be. And I'm angry for you. And this is not fair to you. This has been dragging out for almost 2 years. It's not fair to you. And it's not fair to his children. Any of them. And it's not right. It really isn't. It's not. I've seen so much that it's just terrible. The way that they manipulated and altered and deleted things is wrong. They should not be able to do it, and they have. And for you to be able to look me in the eye knowing that the things are altered and
You pled guilty, man.
Mr. Michael, you are not to address the state. You are to
I'm not
address me.
addressing
You are.
the state. I
You're addressing Mr.
apologize.
Giordano. You are going to address me. What do
My
you want me to
apologies.
say? What do you want to say to me?
my apologies. I wasn't trying to address the state directly. It's just, I was told.
You know, Bob, as emotional and somewhat out of control as she sounds, the response to the judge there was so measured and so articulate that it gives me some concern that she's really got serious issues with this plea deal.
Well, I mean, yeah. So, I mean, but before you go into a plea bargain, there's lots of negotiations, discussions, paperwork that's filled out. The parties come to an agreement, and then you get up there and you either plea or you don't plea. I mean, you don't have to plead guilty. You could be guilty, plead not guilty, and go to trial. I
Sure.
mean, this proceeding was completely unnecessary, in my opinion, and created by her.
And she ultimately got what she wanted, but let's watch the rest of this play out here.
I just told one thing after another, and I truly believed that we were going to do the right thing, and it just didn't happen. I am so sorry for all of this, but I'm so sorry. But I didn't do this, and I didn't know this would end up like this. I really didn't. And I will forever apologize to the family. But I don't know how to fix any of this anymore. I don't. I keep listening to what everyone tells me is the best thing to do. Just do this and it'll work out this way, and follow this advice and we'll do this. And I keep listening to the people because they keep saying this is the best advice. It doesn't turn out the way they tell me it will. And it just gets worse and worse. And I don't know what to do anymore.
Judge, I'm not comfortable with this record. I'm willing to let her out of her plea if the court is inclined.
I don't know how to fix this.
All right.
It's just, this wouldn't be appropriate.
I completely understand.
Let's go to trial.
All right. Ms. Michael, Judge Mr. Giordano says that he's willing to let you out of your plea, and he's willing to try this case. And you understand that he's willing to try this case on an open murder. So a jury can convict you of a first-degree murder. You understand that? Or you want to talk to Mr. Patrick about it?
I don't want to talk to Mr. Patrick. He didn't listen to anything I
Miss
said.
Michaels, I need you to understand what I'm saying to you and answer my question. Do
Yes.
you want to withdraw your plea and go to trial?
Yes, please.
All right. This plea is going to be withdrawn. Ms. Patrick, I need you to have some discussions with your client
Your
about.
Honor, I move to withdraw at this time. This case needs to go back to the appointed counsel.
Ms.
I will
Michaels, hold on just one second. Ms. Michaels, you need to conduct yourself like this is a courtroom. If you cannot do that, then they're going to remove you because I still have business to conduct.
Yes.
Do you understand? Mr. Patrick?
Judge, respectfully, I move to withdraw and have this case sent back to Office of Appointed Counsel. I am not in a position to accept appointment on this case should it go to trial at this time.
All right.
All right then, but other than that, just kind of a routine day at the office. I don't know. I'm probably not fair to the. I don't know if he's a public defender or not. I can't tell. I'm assuming maybe. I'm not sure she has a lot of funds, but it looked to me like if you take her story and believe what you can of it, and his response that he never intended, he was not going to be a trial attorney on this case. He was going to get this thing resolved, and the deal was second-degree murder. So she had the possibility of getting out on parole after 15 years. So for her at 61-ish, 62-ish. That was the deal that was crafted. That's the deal that she decided was not to her liking. So this guy was like, "Oh, I'm out of here." Then exit stage left.
Wow. So let's tell your audience about the concept that before we do this happens all the time. This is real pragmatic lawyering, real world lawyering that a lot of people don't know. Before somebody can take a plea, they have to allocute to the court about what it is that makes them guilty of the offense they're pleading guilty to. So every lawyer knows that before you go into that plea hearing, you have to talk to your client to say, can you truthfully, say under oath that you're guilty of this offense and what it makes you guilty of? And if the answer to that is yes, then an agreement with the government is struck. A plea forms are filled out where the agreement is spelled out. You're giving up your rights to a trial, your right to remain, the presumption of innocence. You'll be convicted of a crime. This is the crime you'll be convicted of. This is the sentence or the sentencing range that you face. And the judge goes through all of that. And do you understand it? Are you being forced, coerced, threatened, so on and so forth? Now, tell me what it is that makes you guilty of this offense. I don't know here, Michael. I've seen this clip like 3 or 4 times, whether this is before the plea or was after the plea and before sentence. But in any event, she's up there saying, I didn't do this. I'm not guilty. My read is the prosecutor correctly indicates at that point in time, you know what? If you say you didn't do it, we can't accept this plea as a matter of justice under those circumstances. Now, the defense lawyer is in a tricky position here. And what he's not saying, and the judge did not force the defense lawyer to say, is that I can no longer communicate with my client. The relationship between my client and myself has broken down to such a point that, as you can see, Judge, she's not even willing to discuss with me when you say, do you want to talk with your lawyer? She's entitled to have a lawyer she can communicate with. So by her saying that was the happiest moment of this defense lawyer's life, because he got to make that argument and the judge let him out of the case. And now she can be some other person's problem.
Yeah, this happened. This was in July. And my understanding is it was had to be, it was a deal that was struck and the court wanted to put a, rubber stamp on it before they wrapped up the case. And at least in Clark County in Vegas, that's what they do. And things kind of fell apart at that point. So now she's in trial. I think today was day 4. A lot of cops have testified. It's a grisly case with all kinds of salacious backstory, like she married her stepson. It's bizarre. And so you wouldn't put her on the stand.
Well, I don't know, but I will say this. When I've been in this position before, either as a prosecutor or defense lawyer, when you're offering a 15-year minimum and she's 62, you're doing the math, right?
Yeah.
How much, by the way, that's minimum. So now I need to know, what are the parole eligibility guidelines? In Jersey, for example, even though 30 to life could be the sentence, we all know that a person who commits murder is not going to be paroled after 30 years. They're going to take what we call a hit, and they have to go before parole, and they have to have an impeccable institutional record, and so on and so forth, and the other. So 15 may turn out to be 20 for all I know. Sure. And at a certain point in time, you do say to a client, look, even if you did it, as I saw there's a little commentary in one of the notes, even if you did it, that's not the issue here. The issue is whether they can prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. And you may want to take a shot at trial and go for the gusto and be found not guilty, or be found guilty and not have the benefit of the plea bargain. But did the prosecutor really offer her a plea bargain that makes sense to somebody who's going to be getting out in their mid-70s? Maybe not. So maybe she decides, I want to roll the dice and give it a shot. And so what do they give me then? 30 years? What's the difference? I'm going to be an old person anyway.
Yeah, you're right. And it could be sitting back in the the local lockup thinking about that from the time they had their quote agreement to the time they went to court. Who knows what's spinning around in her head? And maybe she is innocent. Who knows? The way that by the way that this person, Jonathan Willett, was decapitated in the place they found the body, and there's a lot of testimony about how, boy, there really wasn't a lot of blood spatter. Somehow the cleanest decapitation anybody has seen. And oh, by the way, the head's gone. They never found the head. And they're now blaming, the defense is suggesting that it was the son/husband of the defendant that actually
I
did the
mean,
murder.
does anybody know the quality of the evidence? I don't. I mean, I've commented on this case, but I don't. A lot of times we're in a vacuum. And when we used to be on our previous network, one of my things all the time is I love to know what the plea offers were, because that puts into context why it is somebody may decide to go to trial, because sometimes it's inexplicable why a person would go to trial given the quantum of evidence that's against them. I don't know in this case. Maybe there is a defense. And by the way, I've been involved in 2 or 3 cases in which a person has been found with the body of a murdered person, and it turned out that they were an accessory after the fact and they weren't involved in the murder itself.
Sure.
I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but
No,
I've been
it's
in more than one case.
One of my favorite cases we covered on Law and Crime was the Scandarito case. Do you remember the Jimmy Scandarito? He was accused of killing his dad and then chopping his body up to cover up the murder. His dad had a heart attack. They were both doing drugs that night in his house. And the guy, Jim Scandarito, my favorite kind of Dorito, he gets off with just the dismemberment charge, not the murder charge.
I've been involved in at least 3 cases I can think of where the person who was in possession of the body, and by the way, one of which was a dismembered body, was not the perpetrator. So, I mean, prosecutors have to, when I used to investigate homicides, there used to be a tendency where the lawyer side and the cop side would get into arguments with one another because the lawyers always wanted more evidence, more proof of motive, more that this was the person who did it, that it wasn't done in self-defense, passion provocation. We're always trying to eliminate defenses, but mostly, of course, that this is the person who actually did it. And they would ruffle at the idea if you would go, and say to them, you need to go back in and ask this guy questions with regard to why he did it, so that you're sewing him in to these things, because things happen. People sometimes wind up with dead bodies. It happens.
Yeah, it does. I mean, the most.
Hello?
Weird. Did I just disappear for a second there?
Well, you did, but you're back.
It's the gremlins. Nick also said, yes, they never found the head. But he said, yeah, she's 47. I believe I said that. And the math I gave was 62. Isn't that right? If she does the minimum before she's out on parole. So anyway, it's an interesting.
I mean, listen, I'm sorry to cut you off. Another conversation that you do have as a defense lawyer with somebody is that, listen, you get out at 62, even if you take, again, I don't know the parole eligibility guidelines, but even if you get another 5-year hit or 6-year hit, you're out at 66, 67. There's life for you at the other end. I mean, I have had conversations where I have said things like, look, you don't see it now, but when you're 62, when you're 63, when you're 64, I mean, I've got people, it's hard to believe, that are still serving murder sentences from when I just got out of law school and convicted them of murder offenses that are still in state prison right now. I bet you they would have died. They'd be hitting her over the head. If they could have a call from jail to jail, they'd be like, dude, take the 15. There's life afterwards. It's a tough decision.
Yeah, I know. And this book that we covered on the book club is all about wrongful convictions, and people that it's taken decades to get them out. Ultimately, they do get out, but yeah, after 27 years, and those stories are legion. We hear them all the time, and these are folks in wrongfully convicted, let alone those who take deals and think after the first few years, I'm getting out of here, and maybe they never do. Maybe they never do.
I got to say that. I think I was raised the right way. Maybe your audience will see it differently. But that axiom that better that 100 people that are guilty get set free than one innocent man be convicted. And honestly, in all the years that I prosecuted, and I put people away for lots and lots of times and lots of trials, I was the go-to trial guy. I've only felt kind of queasy about one case about whether the person did it. And I believe the evidence was there. But I've also seen cases that I've investigated that have been so precise and so on paper that the person did it, and it turns out they didn't do it. My point, I guess, that I'm trying to raise here is that my temperature was always on the alert for not being deceived and potentially being part of a process that puts an innocent person in jail. I would be devastated. And I know that there's a lot in the audience that think that, well, people do what they can to get convictions and prosecutors don't care. That's not been my experience. It's more laziness, inefficiency, no skills, no common sense that have led to the wrong things happening. But boy, I hope we haven't gotten to a place where prosecutors don't care about that anymore.
Yeah, I agree. I maybe I'm Pollyanna-ish about it, but I'd like to at least think that until somebody proves me wrong, right? One other case I want to talk about real quick. Since we seem to be on this decapitated or dismembered body story, LA County prosecutor in the David case, and he uses a 4 for the A, so he's crazy.
Pretty cool.
Wild.
Yeah.
Ooh, he's out there. His actual name is David Anthony Burke. Far more boring than just David with the 4. This guy's this rapper. I'm sure. Let me see if I can bring him up here. So we can all say, "Oh yeah."
I wonder if I use a 0 for Bob, whether that makes me cool.
with a null, maybe with a null sign in it.
Yeah. Like no
okay.
Bob.
Okay, I think that would work. Here he is. Here's the dude. Really use the internet to become a superstar. You have all of his music, I'm sure, right? You've got.
Oh, absolutely. He's a hottie.
You got all that. So one day, in I believe it was about 2 months ago now. Yeah, back September was the first LA County statement. They find in his Tesla trunk the body of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. And at the time, the body was so decomposed and it was dismembered that it took 2 weeks just to get her ID. But you gotta, I don't know, Bob, have you had any bodies found in any of the vehicles you own ever? Just seems to me when that happens, the laser focus is on you.
This is going to sound really macabre, and I hope your audience understands that homicide lawyers, prosecutors in particular, have a very macabre sense of humor. It comes along with
gallows humor to just help you survive.
Absolutely. And the first thing I thought, I do drive a Tesla, Michael, to tell you, and the first thing I thought of is, wow, I mean, why would you put your dismembered body in the frunk?
It is in the frunk. It is in the frunk.
The frunk is not spacious.
No.
The frunk is very compact.
Yeah.
But it's sinister because, in a certain sense, I mean, I'm literally thinking about this. If I got to dispose of the body or I got to hide the body, putting it in a frunk is a place most people wouldn't look, right? They don't realize.
Especially if they're not. I have a Jaguar that's electric and it has a frunk as well. And it's very small, even smaller than the Tesla frunk. But you're right. The default position to look, the place to look is not under the hood, under the traditional car, because that's where the engine is, but not so with the electric vehicles.
No, absolutely not. And so there was this decomposed body of this teenage girl. It was a terrible.
It's horrible
thing, and it's one of those.
This is her, Celeste Rivas. They had a relationship. He had her name tattooed on him, and so there was some sort of relationship. My question today, based on the prosecution's latest maneuver or non-maneuver, they said, nope, we're relying on our September statement, and I will read that. This remains an ongoing investigation. And on September 29th, they said the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner has not yet determined the cause or manner of Ms. Rivas Hernandez's death. As such, it remains unclear whether there is any criminal culpability beyond the concealment of her body. Yeah. Now, David he's not even a person of interest, according to reports from the cops. That to me seems to be BS, because how can you not be a person of interest? But he's not been charged with anything. I'm assuming they're keeping track of the guy.
Come
right?
on, man. I mean, all right, we've gone from not calling people suspects too often to we created this new category of
This
person of interest.
interest.
And I love it. I'm all for it. I mean, it's a little less zip on the fastball than suspect. But you can't tell me we got to a point right now where you find a disrepaired, decomposing corpse of a girlfriendish person in a person's trunk, and that they're not even a person of interest. That's lunacy. That's ludicrous. Okay?
So why would it sounds to me like, you're the prosecutor, that they're just getting everything in order to do whatever they're going to do, whether it affects David or some other suspect. But it just seems like an odd statement to come out with, to say, yeah, we got no clues.
Well, yeah, I don't know. When there's so many things. When I became prosecutor, I think the biggest difficulty I had was the media. I know we're not trained on media. I went and got trained on media because we say stupid things. We don't know what to say. You have ethics rules that you can say certain things and not other things, and you got to watch out that you don't accuse somebody of something. You got to watch out you don't compromise an investigation. It's really, really complex. Okay, but in this particular situation, you don't even have the cause and manner of death yet. So there's no way that a prosecutor can competently start looking at whether or not they're going to file criminal charges against them. You've got desecration of human remains and improper, whatever their corollary statutes are for improper disposing of a body, so on and so forth. That you got. So it's clearly a crime's been committed. That at a minimum. How that body, maybe, look, I'm just telling you real life situations. Maybe it was a drug overdose. People don't want to be associated with it. I'm a star on the rise. I can't be sitting here with a teenage girl who died of a heroin overdose. I don't know.
That's certainly something that's been tossed about. Maybe she was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. This, by the way, is when they were searching the vehicle and when they found what they found. I mean, it's obvious you find what they did find, and it's not. If you look at the 5, manners of death, it ain't accidental. You don't trip into a dismemberment. It's highly unlikely to be suicide, right? So you can start whittling it down, and just, I think you get to homicide pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I'm seeing a comment here saying he wasn't the one who disposed of the body. I have no idea. I don't know.
That's the story, that he didn't know it was in his car. Now, I guess somebody could try and set you up by putting a body in your car, but when the connection to the body is so tight, as it is in this case, David and Celeste were a thing of some sort. Look, that doesn't make sense.
Somebody puts the dead body in your car is always going to be a hard argument to believe. Okay, but it's possible. Sure. But the Teslas are some of the most tech advanced vehicles on the face of the earth.
What about all the cameras? You got all the cameras on
cameras. You're going to have all sorts of logs about entry, when the front opened, when it didn't open. They're going to be able to geospatially map phones. This is like what I think is going on behind the scenes. They're going to see, where's her phone? Where's his phone? When was that front open? When was it closed? When did it go dormant? At least this is what I would be doing.
Yeah, you probably have on your phone right now your Tesla app or whatever they call it, right? So you can call it up, as I can with my Jag, and it'll tell me where the car is, what the charge level is, everything I want to know remotely about the car. And if something happens, it'll even tell me, hey, you forgot to lock the car.
Absolutely. They're going to know when that front was opened and closed for the last time. I believe that's the first data point that I'd be asking for. I mean, I'm not a brilliant guy, but I say, all right, when was the last time it was open, the last time it was closed? Get the cell phone records and tower data records for whatever this guy's name is, his phone and her phone, and start triangulating in relationship to when that front was open and when that front was closed. Let's start there.
Yeah. It's interesting. We'll see what happens. And it just is such a sad story. And it's full of like, what the hell? How does that happen? And so far, we don't know. We have no idea. Hey, I have one, before I let you go, one follow-up question to go back to our original discussion we were having about your new favorite defendant, Aiden Carney. If, let's assume, this is kind of a generic question for Jersey. If someone lies, we talked about how you get a restraining order. You have to submit an affidavit. It's an under oath statement, correct? If somebody lies on that, right, and it's proven that they lied, can you then refer that person for perjury charges?
Yes. I mean, anytime somebody makes a false swearing, You can bring charges. You could file a civilian complaint, by the way, may I add. I think we talked a little bit about that offline. Or you could, what you prefer to do, what I would prefer is to have the police or the prosecutors file a complaint. But many times, believe it or not, Michael, prosecutors are remiss to do this when there's restraining order cases at play because they don't want to chill, they will call it, other legitimate victims from coming forward because they would fear prosecution.
Okay, I could see that understanding. I would think that once it plays out, they're more willing to do it. Once the whole thing is played out, it's been concluded that it was a false statement. Because I also think that sends a message to those who might be so inclined to make false statements.
I argued, literally drove to Trenton, New Jersey to have a battle with our attorney general when I had a police body worn camera showing that an allegation of sexual assault by a police officer was completely 1000% false, made up. It ruined this guy's marriage. It ruined his career. It ruined his psychological well-being. And I went down to the attorney general and I said, I want an exception to this rule that does not allow us to file perjury complaints against people who lie about police officers. This is a bad public policy. It encourages people to lie about the police. I have solid, conclusive, 1000% videotaped evidence. So this way you can segregate this from the ordinary cases. And the attorney general would not allow me to file that complaint.
Wow. Yeah. See, to me, that makes it open season. And I think that's wrong. That's wrong. I know it's a balance, but it seems to me you can put some guardrails along that process. All right, Bob. Well, I guess we'll have to fix this some other time. We haven't been able to fix that problem. We'll put that on the list of things that need addressing. All right. Anything exciting happening as we head into the holiday season? Things get a little more quiet with the practice and everything.
Yeah, it's practice is not really. Practice is going pretty busy, to be honest with you. I got a great team. All of my people are former prosecutors. I think it's really important to have former prosecutors that are real serious trial lawyers. Very proud of the work we do. The art of trial work is going away, Michael, which gives us gives us a competitive advantage because people are fearful of us because we know the courtroom so well. But here's where the devil's in the details that I'll say, even though you didn't ask me, I will tell you, is prosecutors' inability to evaluate cases because they've never been tested. They've never had the evidence rules come into play. They think that their case is better than it really is. Only if you've been in the courtroom and watch your case deconstruct as a young lawyer do you be able to be a better arbiter of the strength of your case. So we're unfortunately in a world where it's great that we don't have as many great trial lawyers because that gives us the competitive advantage. It's bad for the justice system as a whole. And other than that, I'm happy to be on. Thanks for asking me. People can find me at @Bianchi ESQ.
Thank you. I think did we have that posted? Did we have that posted up here? Let me see. I think we did. Hold on. There we go. There we go.
Yeah, okay. Like and follow and have me back. I know Missy said that she asked and I was busy. That's probably true, but I feel playing the victim is. I like putting those clothes on.
So poor me. Okay, I'll come on. Yeah. So we will keep asking. We will have you back. You're one of our favorites. The audience loves the Rizz. So thanks, buddy. We will be in touch. Take care.
All right, guys. Peace.
Bye-bye. All right, then. That wraps up another of our guest host week episodes. I don't know what we're going to do tomorrow. Come on. That's 23 hours away. We'll figure that out, though. And we will rejoin. Whatever we can learn about a couple of these cases that are in the ether that we've been talking about, we will learn. We will pass it along. And we will be happy to do that and share with you. In the meantime, thanks for joining. Appreciate it. We are Justice Served TV. Please try to do the right thing.